Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you both for being here today. We appreciate it. I'd like to run down the path specifically on the Department of Interior as a whole, but National Park Service more specifically, in the issue of managing the maintenance backlog. My understanding of this is the budget is asking for roughly $797 million for facility operations and maintenance. And within that, there's $132 million for repair and rehabilitation, which deals with maintenance backlog. Then there's $134 million that basically is going to try to prevent the growth of maintenance backlogs. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. You've got the numbers just about right.
Okay. So we're looking at $132 million being dedicated to the backlog, $134 million to prevent backlog. Here's my concern. I think Chairman Grijalva and Mr. Bishop both have worked. I think they've set a great example in working together in a bipartisan way to try to restore and to deal with the maintenance backlog. And I'm not sure that you're really taking this whole thing seriously. It looks like, to be honest with you, this whole proposal here is kind of like a get out of jail free kind of card and not deal with the issue. I'm fearful that we're going to pass this thing and you're going to be back here in a couple of years and still we're going to have the maintenance backlog problem that we've continued to have. As it's inexcusable, and we've got to address this problem. What assurances can you provide that that's not the case?
Sir, so one doesn't solve a $16 billion department-wide maintenance backlog problem overnight or even in 5 years, and frankly, probably doesn't even go away in 10 years. But I think the President's budget has us headed in the right direction to gradually reduce that maintenance backlog, given this committee's interest on a bipartisan basis in the Public Lands Infrastructure Fund, legislation in the previous Congress, and I'm anticipating equal bipartisan interest in this Congress. That could give us $1.5 billion a year in mandatory spending that would contribute toward reducing the maintenance backlog, and a large fraction of that, 70% of that money, would be going to the Park Service. I think the point is we recognize we have a problem. We're investing in trying to deal with that problem. Were the Congress to pass the Public Lands Infrastructure Fund legislation, that would be a major help. And in the meantime, we have to balance on the appropriated side, daily operations in the parks with our desire to deal with the maintenance backlog that you very correctly characterized.
Well, all due respect, I think you're giving us answers of what needs to happen, but I'm not seeing a whole lot actually happen. You've told us what needs to happen. I want to know what assurances do we have that it's going to happen. And I'm just deeply concerned that this maintenance backlog, it continues to get bigger and bigger and a more significant problem year after year, and we're just not adequately addressing it. I've only got a little bit, and I would like for you to respond to that if you can, but I want to hit on one more issue, and then we'll go from there. The American Battlefield Protection grant seems to, has been cut. This, as you well know, is a one-to-one matching grant program that in reality sees about a 6-to-1 taxpayer funding. It's extremely efficient and effective, one of the more successful programs I believe that we have here in the Park Services. Can you walk me through the reasoning behind that cut?
I'm not privy to the detailed discussion around why that decision was made. I would make the more general observation that there are hundreds, indeed thousands of decisions that have to be made across the line items in the department, and we have to set priorities, and there are a number of situations where we'd have loved to have funded an activity, but we felt that money had to go to higher priorities, and I suspect this is one of those instances.
All right. I would challenge that, but my time's up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.